There's a phrase that sounds harmless, almost honest, almost like self-awareness, but I don't want to. And for a lot of people, that sentence, that simple, childish refusal, quietly decides their entire future, not because they couldn't do the thing, not because they lacked the capacity or the opportunity, but because they refused to respect what they were already good at, because it didn't match their fantasy, because it didn't fit the story they'd been telling themselves about who they were supposed to become. Here's the pattern. You see it everywhere once you start looking for it. You have a real, usable advantage, something you're naturally better at than most people, something that comes easily, that you can deploy consistently, that others recognize and value. And instead of leaning into it, instead of building on that foundation, using it as leverage to create options, you dismiss it. It's boring. It doesn't excite you. It doesn't feel creative or impressive or meaningful. It's not special. Everyone can do it. It's not unique enough to build an identity around. That's not the dream. It doesn't match the version of success you've been imagining. It doesn't fit the narrative you want to live. So you aim for something flashier, something you like more, something that feels more aligned with who you think you are or who you want to become. And you bet your future on a weakness, on something you're mediocre at, while leaving your actual strength untouched, unused, gathering dust. That's not courage. That's not authenticity. That's not following your passion. That's denial with good branding. Let's make it concrete. Let's make it specific enough that you can see yourself in it. You're a mediocre guitarist. Not terrible. You can play. You know the basics. But not special. Not gifted. Yes, in a room full of guitarists, you're invisible. But you want to be a rock star. You always have. That's been the dream since you were a teenager. That's the fantasy that sustained you through boring jobs and difficult years. At the same time, and this is the part that matters, you're a genius-level carpenter. You solve spatial problems intuitively. You see how things fit together before you measure. People seek you out because your work is objectively excellent. You have a reputation. You get referrals. You could build a thriving business if you wanted to. But you don't want to be just a carpenter. That feels like settling, like giving up, like admitting that the dream is dead and you're resigned to something practical and unglamorous. So you grind the guitar. Year after year, you practice, you play open mics, you record demos, you audition for bands. You're competing against people who are obsessed, gifted, and relentless. People for whom music is not a passion project, but a calling. People who hear things you don't hear, who practice in ways you can't sustain. Meanwhile, the thing you could build a life on, the thing that could create financial stability, creative satisfaction, and a sustainable career, sits unused. This isn't romantic. This isn't noble. This isn't you staying true to yourself. This is expensive. This is you paying interest on a fantasy. Here's the lie that causes this mistake, the one that sounds inspiring but destroys lives. Follow your passion. It's bad advice. Not because passion doesn't matter, but because passion alone is not a strategy. Passion doesn't create skill. It amplifies it. Passion plus talent equals momentum. You get somewhere. You improve faster than others. You sustain effort because the work itself is rewarding. Passion plus mediocrity equals frustration. You care deeply about something you're not good at. You work hard and plateau. You watch others pass you with less effort. You burn out or grow bitter. You can grow skill, yes, absolutely, with practice, with coaching, with time. But starting points matter. Ceilings exist. And ignoring that reality doesn't make you noble or determined. It makes you statistically irrelevant. One more person betting on hope instead of leverage. People reject their strengths for predictable, understandable reasons. It doesn't match the identity they want. They've been telling themselves a story about who they are. I'm creative. I'm an artist. I'm not a corporate person. And the strength doesn't fit that narrative. It feels too easy to count as real work. If it comes naturally, it must not be valuable. If it's not a struggle, it must not be meaningful. They confuse effort with worth. It doesn't earn instant admiration. No one gasps when you tell them. It's not impressive at parties. It doesn't generate the social validation they're craving. Someone else told them it wasn't special. A parent, a teacher, a peer dismissed it early. Said everyone can do that, or that's not a real career. And they internalize that judgment. So they chase struggle instead of leverage. They equate suffering with purpose. They think if they're not fighting uphill, they're not growing. But struggle is not proof of meaning. It's just resistance. And sometimes resistance is just the friction of being in the wrong place. This is the hardest part to accept. The part that requires real honesty. Sometimes I don't wanna really means I don't want to accept what I'm good at, because accepting it means letting go of a fantasy. Admitting that the version of success you've been imagining might not be the one that's actually available to you. Being judged on something real. When you chase a fantasy, you can always say, I never really tried. When you commit to your actual strength, the results are undeniable. Failure becomes visible. Taking responsibility for outcomes. When you use your strength, you can't hide behind, I'm still learning, or it's not my natural fit. You're expected to deliver, and that's terrifying. It's safer to chase a dream you'll never quite reach than to commit to a path where results are unavoidable. That's ego protecting itself. That's fear disguised as ambition. That's pride masquerading as passion. Here's what actually happens in the long run. People who build on their strengths gain options. They develop financial stability, professional credibility, a reputation that opens doors, relationships with people who value their work, and options create freedom. Freedom to experiment. Freedom to explore other interests. Freedom to eventually pursue the things they're passionate about, but from a position of security rather than desperation. Very few people start with their dream. Very few people get to do exactly what they want from day one. Most earn the right to explore it. They build leverage first. They create a foundation, and then, only then, they have the resources and freedom to pursue expression. Leverage first, expression second. That order matters. Reverse it, and you spend your life struggling. Chasing passion from a place of scarcity, resenting the world for not rewarding your sincerity. You don't dishonor yourself by using what you're good at. You don't betray your dreams by building on your actual strengths instead of your imagined ones. You dishonor yourself by pretending those strengths don't count, by leaving them unused while you chase fantasies that don't fit your reality. Your strengths are not a trap. They're not a consolation prize. They're not what you settle for when you give upon the real dream. They're a doorway, the only one that's actually open. You can walk through it, build something real, sustainable, valuable, or you can stand outside arguing with reality, insisting the door you want should be the one that opens. Next time, we're going to talk about limited availability and why pretending every field has room for everyone sets people up for disappointment they never needed. We all can't be astronauts, but refusing to use the tools you already have is the surest way to never leave the ground.